Claude AI represents the next generation of intelligent systems, enabling more natural, capable, and human-centered interactions between people and technology. But here to give you detail on how Claude is geared for the next generation systems, please welcome to the stage my very own Elario Muller, Development Executive Solutions and Services, that's a mouthful in a title, to give you the overview of Claude.
Good morning and thank you. Take I need some help. But before I start, we've been talking a lot, so I'm going to try and be a little untraditional. Can everybody get up? Just stand quickly, just look me in my oog. Because after an AI conversation like that, someone not paying attention, I'm not going to call you out, but I saw you. So it's a stand, get the blood flowing. It's not so cold. So thank you. This is a good example of how we prompt. I prompted people to stand, and that's how we do AI. When we ask AI something, it listens better. All thank you very much. You can have your seats. All right, so let me also just start by saying, doing this on Claude is very intimidating, all right? I had some very cool engagements on AI in the last week, especially with the AI guru, Jacques Bassi. Die slim mense steek my weg. So we had a very cool conversation with one of Namibia's largest corporates to try and understand how do we integrate AI in what we do? How do we not replace people, but how do we drive efficiencies? Everybody talks revenue. The reality of AI is it helps you to be proficient in your processes, but what it also does is it helps you to get market trends if your data is pretty much sorted. So your revenue doesn't necessarily go up, but your need for people in the future gets reduced. So thank you, Vanessa, for putting me on the spot to do this job. All right, so why Claude? What I try to do is I try to build it around Namibia. The beautiful thing about Claude is it is actually built upon, let's say, the Constitution of the United States. What that tells us is it can be applied on Namibian legislation, but you need to teach it. You need to give it the information. I am not a guru. I prompt, still very much on the front end, because the back end of AI is very complicated. There's a lot going on there. You need to know what you want to do, what you want to achieve, then the how, the what. And it always starts by, let's do a masterclass to make sure we understand AI correctly. So the enterprise AI moment, I wanted to use the word movement, but everybody has an AI moment where you're like, AI actually does this for me, and then you go do it, and you completely abuse the process because now that's all you're doing. You're not using AI for a step. I've had people, my mother sends me stuff from the farm that I know is not there. So that's what people are using AI for. There's businesses that's using AI for processes, and that's where Claude is fundamentally, in my opinion, a very good tool to use. Okay, so let's start with the software engineering benchmark. I do acknowledge I'm in the room with people that's a lot smarter than me, a lot better than me at this. But I think when it comes to AI, we use it in the lane that we need it. When people get proficient in the lane. The photographer will get proficient in the line that he needs it. Engineers and developers will take it further. So 80.8% of the software engineering benchmark pretty much use it for fixing GitHub issues, real code base, not toy problems. So we've all tried to ask Claude, please build me a website for my side hustle where I'm selling bread with donuts on the inside of the bread. Claude will do a website for you, then you try to publish the website, and you're like, this is not working, so the beauty of Claude is when you go into the coding side, it can actually break down your code lines for you to help you error check later for your developments later. Claude takes an actual prompt writes the code that you will have access to for development, and you can actually prompt your code to give you line development. Meaning, if you're looking for areas for further development, Claude is the way to go. That's why the engineers love it so much. But as I stated, we are not always using Claude at its peak use. We playing in the front with things to make it look pretty and to make our life a bit easier. Okay. Token context window analyzes dozens of 100-page documents. If I can put that in a nutshell. That is the beauty of AI. It helps us to, not going to use the word multitask, it helps us to do 5 people's job at the pace that you are paid for. Not for the 5 people's jobs that you get paid for, because I've heard it before. No, AI is helping me do 5 people's job. Yes, that's why it's called efficiency. That's how we save revenue. That's how in a competitive market, we're still going to be around in a few years. It's also very cool is that it is very much human preference. Large language models, Jan and I had a very good, cool conversation. I actually think it was, I was standing there, I was talking to Vanessa, and I was eavesdropping. Over 1 million blind comparisons. So it thinks better than most models. I'm also going to say everybody's got the virtue of their AI. There isn't this, I must get myself in trouble here. She likes Claude. I mean, what's it, Copilot? Claude had to woo her and win her over, so now she's using both. It's the only time where you may legally have 2 wives, or 2 boyfriends, or however you want to spin your analogy. Copilot is very cool on your internal stuff. Claude marriages the two. So I always advise, spread your portfolio, what you need to get done. All right, 7 reasons Claude leads in enterprise. I'm focusing on enterprise because this is a business case, in my opinion, for Namibia. I love that the honorables are all here and they're actually driving very hard on the education process for AI for everybody. The guys sitting in the office versus like our smartphone that's in rural Namibia, that has connectivity, education is needed all over the place. So coding and agentic engineering, as I said, with Claude, you can really break down the code down to the line item. I engage our developers at SALT, and very times it is always the client engagement section that takes a bit long. The client wants the picture a little to the left. I want to change that, and I want to use my mother's cousin's brother's picture here. Their hourly rate gives them the price. Our job is to go in, build a relationship, close the deal. So if we can model something right up front with the client, then and there, you know what you're doing, it's not very complicated. Claude AI is very cool with that. Long context handling, so if you're trying to build something bigger, in my opinion, Claude is the way to go. Constitutional AI security. What's very different about Claude is it's got ethics in the foundation. It's not slapped on the top. I'm sure we've all seen Elon Musk's Grok lawsuit in Australia, in the States, where you can give it unsavory instructions and it will deliver it. With Claude, it doesn't. There was actually a philosopher that they pulled in to help define terms of ethics in its building model. So it's not that they had the car and they spray painted it to be pink enough because they wanted to perceive as they have a moral built-in, we call that. And there's another very quick discussion on morality. Where does morality come from? It's the voice in the head. Who raised that voice? Who told that voice? So now, this is where Claude comes in, where it's actually a bit of a different AI model setup, as well as very important that it's a guy. All right, so on the constitutional level, what's very good is that you can actually use that because it's built on the US Constitution, obviously, because that's what the basis gets run from. But you can integrate it with your Claude AI here to use legislation in Namibia as your backend, especially for interpretation of law, which sometimes becomes a key thing. Sustained multi-step reasoning. Now, I see me in the button. We go, can you bring us something across? No? Okay. It's the language. If you are older than 30, you speak on the cards. Writing quality. What's really cool is, so I use Claude for my proposals. And on one of our developers actually told me, like, there's a humanizing aspect that you can use to Claude that helps you get away with it. Because most AI has a little dash that irritates them. I mean, dumbest I have. Give me the recipe for bread so I can tell my mother I wrote it. And all the dashes in there gives you a game. So on Claude, there's actually on the back end, we can actually say humanize, and then it's a little code you drop in from Claude themselves. Enterprise and regulated sectors, this is the fun part. I think there's a huge understanding, maybe even misunderstanding. There was this big fear, Claude can replace people. Claude can't do anything without people. You have to skill up. When the steam engine came out, the horse and cart guys were like, oh no, we're not going to work. No, they learned how to drive the steam engine. So you're going to have to upskill because the world's moving at an exponential rate. And cloud neutral distribution, I don't understand that enough to give you guys too much info on that, so I'm going to bounce that one. So the previous Microsoft guy mentioned that. So let's quickly go to constitutional AI. Understands why, not just what. So this is where ChatGPT and Grok, they really do the what. Claude reasons very well, guides very well, it asks the right questions. However, you cannot be a grade 10 mathematician and now ask Claude, how do I do this from the financial director? You need to understand what you're asking, you need to understand where you're going. You may not understand all the calculations, but you have to have a framework of understanding to really apply AI at its finest. So, Claude's constitution trains the model to reason about principles behind ethical decisions, enabling correct handling of novel situations, not just familiar rule matches. I don't know, shocker, but if Arsenal's going to win, you don't need AI to tell you Arsenal's going to win. But what you can do is, if you look at the statistics of the season, of the game, of their scoring, of their patterns, AI can help you develop a reason. So I don't know how many of you are on high-end gambling. Probability is king. That's where Claude does that for you very nicely. Fewer hallucinations in regulated outputs. Doesn't lie a lot.
So it lies.
It lies less. And she's not wording very carefully here because Vanessa was like, no, that's not the right word, but this word gives the wrong impression. And all lies, okay? You just, the guarantee that Claude gives you is it lies a whole lot. What is the word? Less, right? Lies less. It tells you you're beautiful every morning. It will do that for you. I don't know how you feel about yourself in the morning, but that's what it will do for you. It is a nice lie, but it's not going to tell you somebody drove up your dog, you might have a heart attack. Depends how you prompt it. But the probability of when you ask it something, the information that you get back, the probability is a lot higher, and it's very real information. But like I said earlier, if you understand nothing, you can't put quantum physics in there and be like, oh, cool, answer 7. And it doesn't give you the right solution. So updated in 2026 is the constitutional approach, meaning Anthropic moved from a rules checklist to a philosophical approach. And I know you guys are on philosophy. It's not a religious thing, it is not a cultural thing, it is a process of thought. Thought drives development. We all have biases. Nobody can tell me they don't. But Claude, they try to really have it think in what is factual, what is real. As much as it can lie to you, the probability is a lot lower. All right, reasoning, communications quality. As I said earlier, I'm not going to dive down too much in this one, but it's a lot better. The more you teach it, the more it gets you. My Claude understands me. There's people that, like, Vanessa started the voice Claude. It facts. You don't praat net by it, doesn't actually get to a point. Mine tunes me straight. No. A, B, C, and D. Yes, A, B, C, and D. You didn't ask the right question to get the result you're looking for. So the communication, the faff fades away the more you communicate. I think that's like any relationship. In the beginning, you're dating, you're talking a lot, you're trying to woo her or her, you, I don't know, it's a new world, girls hitting guys, and guys hitting guys. The point comes down to how you engage. In the beginning, you know, verskriklik baie. Then somebody gets pissed off 10 months later, and then we're still the 3 now. This is where the communication with Claude stays consistent. So this is where I want to get to. Enterprise trust and cloud flexibility. So, on enterprise, you know what enterprise is? It's on scaled operations, not the one-man show doing accounting. They can use Claude, they 100% can, but the processes, operations, simplifications, automations will cost too much for a one-man show. But if you've got an enterprise, it really helps you to find your rhythms. The meeting with the larger corporate is, they wanted to know what the north part of Namibia in that town, what's the buying power? What is their buying habits? Their data, thank you Jesus, was sorted. They had a very organized structure. We could use that information. We could see, okay, so this time of year, use your example, Vanessa, nails were at the peak of being sold, and they could apply that into their marketing into real time, because now the data is too big for one person to go through. The market moves so fast. They needed to know this Saturday, normally this time of year, they buy nails. But in Windhoek, pools were selling the fastest. So it really interprets your data very well for your larger scale businesses. Legal and contracts. Claude is the fight you pick when you want detailed, descriptive, closed loop languages. Does that very well. Medical and healthcare. Dell has got a very cool thing where you can actually, people going for scans, AI would read those scans and point out cancers, types of cancers, because the model has been taught to learn this factual information and fit into it. So this doesn't, it's not the Google of, I have a headache, my toe's broken, and what do I need to do? Claude's going to tell you, drink Omo, go see the doctor, and you'll end up dead before you get there. This is for medical practices. All right, so it's not a doctor. It gives really sound advice sometimes. And government and political and public sector. Sorry, that's not very clear over there. But there's a lot of Namibian policies. And same thing like with our HR department. My MD sitting here, so I'm going to look at it. I don't always read the policy. I throw it into my AI, I ask my question, and then it gives me the question. And that's where I really like it. It's interpretation of information, of something that is fed into it. So you've got two shows. You can either go into the world of the internet to gather that information out, then it becomes interpretive. Or like in Namibia, we actually have access, very cool, to documents to throw in to have real political debates, to crush each other, to understand each other. And this is where I really like Claude. And then, it's my favorite score chart. I wanted to bring this up to be very clear. Claude has weaknesses. Not a whole lot. All right? So, coding, agentic engineering, Claude leads. ChatGPT behind, Gemini behind. Long context documents, Claude leads. Chat, Gemini behind. Constitutional AI safety, Claude, because it has philosophy in the back end or in the foundation, it applies knowledge a lot different. Writing quality, Claude's made spelling mistakes, and the grammar has also got commas and dashes at weird places. This is where, once again, Claude leads. However, multi-step processing as well as quality of writing, ChatGPT and Claude's comparable. So what I'm saying here, again, is choose your AI for the application that you need it for. Terminal command, line interface, multimodal video understanding, raw output. Claude kan nie pretjies teken nie. I've asked it once, I got a stick on it. It's terrible. However, this is where the integration of AI comes in. ChatGPT, on terminal, command line, CLI automation. So, what I do want to announce before I get on to the next, let me use the word conclusion. My soundbox, can I get a drum roll, please? Ladies and gentlemen, Solve Essential IT is a Claude partner for Namibia. We closed it. I'm very excited to announce that for all your Claude needs, from licensing, you can speak to Solve Essential IT. So, thank you. That was very cool. So, before everybody jumps and lines up and storms to my office, there's a few steps. Number one, come to our AI masterclass so we can be sure that we all understand the same thing about Claude AI. That one I'm going to charge you for. It comes with an invoice. Then, number two, what do you struggle with? How can we define the solution? So it becomes a data-driven solution, not just a, I think this will work. I think we can do this. It's not a cheap exercise. Tokens are not cheap in the long run. So after that discovery session, you actually get a document of, so these are the problems you brought from your business to the table. I don't understand your business. This discovery session helps us to define what your problem is by you. The processes of how that will be executed will come in a document. In that document, there will be cost, there will be POC. We break it down as to how you can apply it, where you want to apply it, and what it's going to cost you. I'm in business to make money. If it was all free and lekker, we wouldn't be in business. And then we do a proof of concept after the discovery session, and then we go live. But it is data research driven from you. I understand the business where I work. I don't understand your business. This is why it's very important for the discovery session, and we do that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I hope I can make money out of you. Please scan the code and engage with us. Let's see what we can do. How can I be of service to you?